Narinig ng malakas na magnitude 7.3 na lindol ang bansang Vanuatu.
Alamin ang kalagayan ng mga tao roon mula sa mga detalye ng balitang ibabahagi maya-maya. Magandang gabi. Ako po si Ricky Matay.
Ako si Nina Richie Alago Flores. Ito ang mata ng Agila International. Para naman sa mga headlines ngayong araw ng Martes.
Mary Jane Veloso makababalik na sa Pilipinas bukas.
Reklamong falsification at violations of the anti-dummy law inihain ng NBI laban sa pamilya ni Alice Go.
Kaso ng COVID-19 sa Australia muling tumaas.
La Nina posibleng maranasan sa susunod na 3 buwan ayon sa United Nations.
At abangan ang naganap na pamamaril sa isang paaralan sa Wisconsin. Kinumpirma ng Department of Foreign Affairs na nakatakdang bumalik si Pinay drug convict Mary Jane Veloso sa Indonesia sa Pilipinas bukas December 18.
Sinabi ni DFA Undersecretary Tess Lazaro na ang inaasahang departure time ni Veloso mula sa Jakarta, Indonesia ay sa ganap na 12:50 ng umaga o parang madaling araw po yan, habang inaasahang darating ang Pinay sa Maynila ng alas 6 ng umaga. Sa kabila nito ay hindi uuwi ng kanilang bahay si Veloso dahil didiretso ito sa Correctional Institution for Women sa Mandaluyong City ayon sa Bureau of Corrections. Paliwanag ni Bucor Director General Gregorio Pio Katapang Jr. nakabatay sa Bucor Manual ang admission at confinement ng mga persons deprived of liberty o PDL. Saad pa ni Katapang na isa sa ilalim si Veloso sa mandatory quarantine ng 5 araw para obserbahan para sa anumang physical o kaya'y mental illness.
Kina-dismiss Banban Mayor Alice Go at sa 4 na kaanak nito. Sinabi ni NBI spokesperson Ferdinand Lavin na naghain sila ng reklamong falsification at violations of the anti-dummy law laban kina Go sa magulang nito na sina Jiang Zhongguo at Lin Wenyi at sa kapatid ng dating alkalde na sina Sheila at Simen Go. Kaugnay pa rin ito sa pagbili ng 4 na parcels ng lupa ang mga Go para sa 3 Lin Q Farm sa mga Tarema, Pangasinan. Nakaharap din ang pamilya Go sa 7 counts of falsification para sa misrepresentation nila sa kanilang mga papeles sa Securities and Exchange Commission Incorporation. Umaasa rin si Lavin na masisimulan na sa mga susunod na araw ang forfeiture case labin sa mga nasabing ari-arian.
Nilinaw ni PhilHealth Board of Directors Chairperson at Department of Health Secretary Ted Herbosa na mayroong pondo ang health state insurer sa susunod na taon. Ayon sa kalihim, nasa 284 billion pesos ang inaprubahang budget ng board ng PhilHealth para sa taong 2025. Tinukoy din ni Herbosa na ang subsidiya mula sa gobyerno ang nawala. Ito ay dahil may 600 billion pesos na reserve funds pa ang PhilHealth. Higit pa rito ay sinabi rin ng kalihim na ngayong 2024, nasa 63% ang utilization rate ng PhilHealth sa perang inilaan ng gobyerno. Kaya panawagan ni Herbosa, huwag maniwala sa mga nababasa online na walang pondo ang PhilHealth dahil ito po ay mali.
Ayon naman sa Philippine Health Insurance Corporation of PhilHealth, mag-a-adjust sila sakaling aprubahan na ni Pangulong Ferdinand Marcos Jr. ang pagtapyas ng subsidy sa ilalim ng panukalang 2025 National Budget. Paliwanag ni PhilHealth Senior Vice President for Health Finance Policy Sector Dr. Israel Francis Pargas, nirerespeto nila ang desisyon ng Bicameral Conference Committee at ng Pangulo. Nangako rin si Pargas na ibibigay ang PhilHealth ang lahat ng benepisyong nakalaan para sa mga miyembro nito. Samantala, magpapatuloy ang pakiusap ng ilang miyembro ng mga medical societies, labor groups at civil society sa Administrasyong Marcos na ibalik o bigyan ng pondo ang PhilHealth. Subalit, tiniyak ni Health Secretary Ted Herbosa, chairperson of the board ng PhilHealth, na hindi magsasara ang ahensya sa kabila ng pangamba ng publiko dahil sa zero budget na ibinigay ng BICAM. Ito ay dahil mayroong 284 billion pesos na corporate operating budget ang PhilHealth. Ang pondo pong ito, anya, ay inaprubahan ng mga miyembro ng Board of Directors ng PhilHealth para sa susunod na taon. Kaya nitong gastusan ang expenses ng Department of Health at ng 87 ospital ng ahensya. Mas mataas din na 10% ang nasabing pondo kumpara sa budget ng PhilHealth itong taong 2024 na nagkakahalaga ng 259 billion pesos.
Inaprubahan ng Kamara sa ikatlo at huling pagbasa ang House Bill number 107550 or 55 o ang Lease Investors Lease Act. Nakakuha ang panukalang batas na ito ng 175 affirmative votes, 3 negative votes at 2 abstentions. Ang House Bill 10755 ay naglalayo na palawigin ang land lease limits ng mga dayuhan sa Pilipinas. Kaya imbes na 75 taon lamang ito, ay pinahihintulutang ng Inventors Lease Act ang isang dayuhang namumuhunan na magrenta ng lupain sa Pilipinas sa loob ng 79 na taon. Nakasaad rin dito na ang lahat ng mga lease agreement ay kailangan munang aprubahan ng Department of Trade and Industry Board of Investments. Ang panukalang batas na ito ayon sa committee report ng Kamara ay upang makaakit ng mas maraming dayuhang mamumuhunan sa Pilipinas nang sa gayon ay mapaunladaan nila ang paglago ng ekonomiya, magkaroon ng mga trabaho at mapabuti ang overall investment climate ng bansa.
Noong December 3 hanggang December 14 ay tagumpay ang isinagawang Rotation and Resupply Mission o RORE ng Pilipinas sa siyam na isla ng West Philippine Sea o WPS. Ayon kay Philippine Navy spokesperson for the WPS, Commodore Roy Trinidad, nangyari ang RORE mission sa Ayungin Shoal, Rizal Reef at sa mga isla ng Pag-asa, Lawak, Parola, Patag, Kota, Likas at Panata. Ayon kay Philippine Navy spokesperson for the WPS, Commodore Roy Trinidad, namataan ng Navy ang 4 na Chinese vessels sa kanilang RORE mission sa Ayungin Shoal noong nakaraang linggo, subalit wala anyang nangyaring untoward incident. Batay po sa datos ng gobyerno, simula noong January 1 hanggang December 16 ay nakapagsagawa ang Philippine Navy ng mahigit sa 300 maritime sovereignty and surveillance patrol missions sa WPS, habang higit sa 100 air surveillance flights at mahigit 60 RORE missions naman ang matagumpay na naisagawa sa siyam na isla ng Pilipinas sa WPS.
Sinabi ni Senadora Grace Poe na nanatiling prioridad ng Kongreso ang edukasyon sa inaprubahang 2025 national budget sa kabila ng ibinawas na pondo sa Department of Education at Commission on Higher Education. Saad pa ng Senadora, nirerespeto nito ang karapatan ng palasyo ukol sa paglalaan ng pondo. Giit ni Senator Poe na kahit may ibinawas na pondo ay nananatiling pinakamataas ang budget ng DepEd sa 2025 kumpara ngayong taon. Matatandaan na pinalagan ni DepEd Secretary Sonny Angara ang tinapyas na 12 billion pesos sa budget ng DepEd sa 2025 kung saan naapektuhan ang computerization program ng ahensya. Binanggit rin ni Poe na ang ulat ng Commission on Audit na umaabot lamang sa 50% ng pondo para sa 2023 computerization program budget ang nagamit dahil sa systemic issues katulad ng pagkaantala sa pagbili.
Plano ng Pilipinas at India na maglunsad ng naval cooperation para palalimin pa ang kanilang maritime ties. Sa ginanap na inaugural Track 1 Maritime Dialogue ng dalawang bansa sa Maynila, ay tinukoy ang mga posibleng aspeto ng kolaborasyon ng Pilipinas at ng India para sa maritime security. Kasama rin dito ang pagtutulungan sa ocean science. Pareho ring binigyan diin ng Pilipinas at ng India ang kanilang interes para isulong ang malaya, mapayapa at masaganag na Indo-Pacific region. Alinsunod na rin sa 1982 United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea ang UNCLOS at 2016 Arbitration Award. Susunod, isang general sa Russia patay matapos ang isang pagsabog sa kanyang bahay sa Moscow.
Israeli government inaprubahan na ang occupation and expansion sa Golan Heights.
At Donald Trump inakusahan si Biden na may tinatagong impormasyon. Mga detalye na mga balitang yan at iba pa sa pagbabalik ng Mata ng Agila International.
Pagod na ang ating barkada sa search for the missing painting.
Pwede bang hindi na muna ako sumama sa pag-oobserba niyo mamaya?
Ako rin, Sir Lloyd.
Maigi pa, mag-take turns na lang tayo.
Wait lang, bakit parang naging search for the one?
Christy, salamat Sinamahan mo ako mag-ikot-ikot.
Wala yun, Sir Lloyd. Mukha lang tayong nagde-date.
Habang may nabubuong tambalan, pero namang nagkakalabuan?
Hoy, Nate! Bakit mo pinaiyak yung anak ko?
Tito, hindi ko naman po siya pinaiyak.
Siyempre, sasabihin niya yun.
Alamin kung anong search ang unang matatapos sa tumitinding mga kaganapan dito lang sa Goodwill Season 5. Bago mag-Corina interviews. Alas 5 ng hapon, dito lang sa Net 25.
Sa Net 25.
Muling naitala sa Australia ang pagtaas ng bilang ng mga tinatamaan ng COVID-19 Omicron variant. Sa kanlurang Australia, naitala ang 75 nagpopositibo sa COVID at dinadala sa pagamutan araw-araw. Base sa surveillance data ng Health Department sa Australia, pinangangambahan nila ang pagtaas ng kaso ng COVID-19 ngayong darating na holiday season na siyang nagdudulot rin ng takot sa bilang ng kanilang health workers kapag anya lumala ang sitwasyon. Pinapayo ng mga otoridad palaging magsuot ng face mask sa matataong lugar at kung saan may sakit man o kung may sakit man ay pinayuhan na manatili na lamang sa kanilang mga tahanan. Hinihikayat rin ng publiko na mag-self-isolate kung nakararanas ng mga mild symptoms ng sakit. Ang mabilis na hawaan na nararanasan ng ibang mga Australians mula sa COVID-19 ay bunsod umano ng paghina ng kanilang immune system. Samantala, hinikayat rin ng Health Department ng Australia ang publiko na magpa-booster shot kahit pa walang malubhang karamdaman. Habang ang nasa edad 18 to 64 years naman na walang nararamdamang malubhang karamdaman ay sinasabihang magpa-booster shot kada taon. Para sa edad 5 to 17 naman, tinuturing na severely immunocompromised ay nirerekomendang magpabakuna.
Ipinagtanggol ni Syrian President Bashar al-Assad ang kanyang pamumuno. Dagdag pa nito ay itinanggi nito na matagal na siyang nagplanong umalis bago pa lamang dumating ang mga rebeldeng grupo sa Damascus. Sinabi nitong ang kanyang pagtakas palabas sa Syria ay hindi na iplano o nangyari dahil nananatili pa rin ito sa Damascus ng hanggang December 8. Tinawag nito ang mga rebeldeng grupo ng mga terorista na pumasok sa capital kaya lumipat na ito sa Russian base sa Latakia City para makita ang combat operations. Matapos na matalo ng mga Hayat Tahrir al-Sham o HTS militant group ang huling Russian forces sa base, ay lumipad na sila patungang Moscow, Russia. Sa ngayon po ay kontrolado na ng HTS militant groups ang nasabing bansa kasama ang isang caretaker government matapos na simulan nila ang pag-atake mula pa noong buwan ng Nobyembre.
Patay ang hepe ng Nuclear, Biological at Chemical Protection Troops matapos sumabog ang isang bomba sa kanyang apartment complex sa Moscow. Ayon sa mga investigador ng Moscow, si Lieutenant General Igor Kirillov ang tanging target ng nasabing pagsabog ng isang bomba na nakatago sa isang electric scooter na nilagay sa entrada ng kanyang apartment building, iilang kilometro lang ang layo sa Kremlin. Kasama si Kirillov sa mga pinatawan ng parusa ng United Kingdom dahil sa kanilang paggamit ng toxic choking chemical na chlorpyrifos laban sa mga sundalo ng Ukraine. Ang naturang bombing na kumitil sa hepe at sa kanyang assistant ay nagdulot naman ng high alert warning para sa iba pang opisyal sa gabinete ng Russia. Sa ngayon ay wala pang nakikitang sospek ang mga otoridad, ngunit tinuturing nila itong isang act of terror sa kanilang sariling kabisera.
Главным следственным управлением Следственного комитета России по Москве расследуется уголовное дело по факту гибели двух военнослужащих. По данным следствия, в самокат, стоящий возле подъезда жилого дома на Рязанском проспекте, было заложено взрывное устройство. В результате его детонации утром 17 декабря погиб начальник войск радиационной, химической и биологической защиты Вооруженных сил Российской Федерации Игорь Кириллов и его помощник. Произошедшее квалифицировано как теракт, убийство, незаконный оборот оружия и боеприпасов. На месте происшествия работает следственно-оперативная группа, устанавливаются обстоятельства преступления и круг лиц, причастных к их совершению.
Isasara ng gobyerno ng Israel ang embahada nito sa Ireland. Ito anila ay dahil sa matitinding polisiya ng Ireland laban sa Israel. Narito po ang detalye ng balita mula kay Riza Mangilit.
Noong Lunes, makikita ang video footage na ito ng Israeli Embassy sa Dublin, Ireland. Isang araw matapos sabihin ng Israel nang sasarhan nito ang tanggapan dahil sa extreme anti-Israel policies. Kasama sa mga tuntuning ito, anya ay ang pagkilala sa isang Palestinian state at suporta para sa international legal action sa gera nito laban sa Gaza. Pinabalik ng Israel ang ambassador nito matapos ang desisyon ng Ireland ukol sa Palestinian state noong Mayo. Noong nakaraang linggo, ikinagalit lalo ng Israel nang suportahan ng Dublin ang kaso ng South Africa sa International Court of Justice na umaakusa sa Israel ng genocide. Riza Mangilit para sa mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Extremism, Russia and Iran also should have a place in Syria's future. Ito ang pinanindigan ng Foreign Policy Chief ng European Union sa harap ng mga foreign ministers. Si Chantel Santos para sa balita.
Sa pulong ng European Foreign Ministers noong Lunes, sinabi ni EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas na walang lulugaran ang ekstremismo, Russia at Iran sa Syria sa darating na panahon.
These are principles of territorial integrity, sovereignty, accountability, but also inclusiveness of government, taking into account especially the minorities and women's rights in this case. This process has to be Syria-led and Syria-owned and reflect the Syrian people in all of its diversity. This is very, very important. Extremism, Russia and Iran also should not have a place in Syria's future.
Ayon kay Kallas, marami sa foreign ministers ang nagbigay diin na gawing kondisyon para sa bagong mga leader ng bansa na alisin ang impluwensya ng Russia sa Syria.
First on Syria, Russia's presence. This was discussed. Many foreign ministers took this up to say that it should be a condition for the new leadership that they also get rid of the Russian influence there, because it is a base where they also conduct their activities towards Africa and the southern neighbors. So this is definitely of the worry of European security as well.
Noong Sabado, 4 na opisyal ng Syria ang nagsabi na sa kabila ng pag-atras ng Russia sa militar nito sa frontline sa northern Syria at sa Alawite Mountains, hindi iniiwan ng Moscow ang dalawang base nito sa bansa matapos mapatalsik si Pangulong Bashar al-Assad. Shanta Santos para sa mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Nagdadalamhati po ngayon ang mga pamilya sa lungsod ng Gaza nang mapatay ang 7 nilang kaanak dahil sa isang Israeli strike. Rosel Feria po para sa balita.
Hindi bababa sa 7 Palestinians ang namatay at 30 ang sugatan matapos ang pag-atake ng Israel sa isang dating paaralan na ngayon ay silungan ng mga taong lumikas.
الاحتلال الإسرائيلي يمارس سياسة القصف حتى هذه اللحظة في قطاع غزة، وكان آخرها استهداف مدرسة العائلة المقدسة واستهداف مدرسة ماجدة وسيلة، وطبعا كلف هذا الاستهدافين عدد من الشهداء، نتحدث على أطفال، نتحدث على نساء، 7 شهداء استشهدوا وأكثر من 30 إصابة في الاستهدافين. طبعا هذه المدارس هي تأوي نازحين، تأوي أسر تم تدمير منازلها وبالتالي لم تجد أماكن آمنة سوى هذه الأماكن، لكن الاحتلال مصر على أن يقوم بعمليات القصف وقتل الأبرياء والمواطنين في قطاع غزة.
Ayon sa tagapagsalita, sinusuri sa kasalukuyan ng Israeli military ang report ukol dito. Ayon sa military, pinatamaan ng Israeli aircraft ang mga militante at mga tambakan ng sandata na malapit sa isang aid warehouse. Ito ay matapos maglunsad ng mga raketa ang gunmen patungong Israel mula sa tambakan. Samantala, isang hiwalay na pag-atake laban sa mga manlalabang Hamas sa Gaza City ang puminsala sa dating shelter na tinitirhan ng mga displaced na mga tao. Ayon sa militar, 7 ang patay kabilang ang isang babae at sanggol. Rosel Feria para sa Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Inaprubahan ng gobyerno ng Israel nitong linggo ang plano na doblehin ang populasyon ng occupied at annexed Golan Heights kasunod ng pagpapatalsik kay President Bashar al-Assad sa Syria.
אין לנו עניין להתעמת עם סוריה. אנחנו נקבע את מדיניות ישראל כלפי סוריה לפי המציאות המתהווה בשטח. אני מזכיר שבמשך עשרות שנים סוריה הייתה מדינת אויב אקטיבית לישראל. היא תקפה אותנו שוב ושוב, היא אפשרה לאחרים לתקוף אותנו משטחה, היא אפשרה לאיראן לחמש את חיזבאללה דרך שטחה. כדי להבטיח שמה שהיה לא יהיה יותר, אנחנו נקטנו בשורה של פעולות עצימות בימים האחרונים. יחד עם שר הביטחון קץ, אני הנחיתי את צה"ל לסכל את האיומים הפוטנציאליים מסוריה ולמנוע השתלטות של גורמי טרור סמוך לגבולנו.
Ani Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu sa isang pahayag, ang pagpapalakas sa Golan ay pagpapalakas sa Estado ng Israel kung saan mahalagaan niya sa panahon ngayon. Sinabi ng opisina ni Prime Minister Netanyahu na nagkaisang inaprubahan ng pamahalaan ang mahigit 40 million shekels o katumbas ng $11 million na plano upang hikayatin ang pagpapalago sa kanilang buffer zone sa naturang lugar. Isinumite ni Netanyahu ang plano sa gobyerno sa kabila ng digmaan at sa pagnanais na doblehin ang populasyon ng taong naninirahan sa Golan Heights. Kamakailan lang ay pinuna ni Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan ang pagsasagawa ng Israel ng mga military operation sa naturang buffer zone kung saan sinabi nitong mas mainam na lisanin ng militar ng Israel ang buffer zone upang hayaan ang mga Syrian na makabangon mula sa nangyaring sagupaan sa kanilang bansa.
Never allow terrorism to take advantage of the transition period. We have to coordinate our efforts and learn from the mistakes of the past. Any misstep would lead to irregular migration flow. And meantime, Israel should stop immediately. We all need an orderly, inclusive, and Syrian-led transition process. During this historical time, Transition state institution must be preserved and, if necessary, reformed. Territorial integrity and unity of Syria must be protected under all circumstances.
Matindi ang kakulangan ng gasolina sa Damascus at dahil dito, pahabaan ang pila sa mga istasyon ng gas. Nagbabaka sakali ang mga residenteng sana ay makabahagi naman sila sa rasyon ng gasolina. Pearl Rogasyon po para sa balita.
10 araw nang walang supply ng gasolina sa kabisera ng Syria na Damascus. Ang ilang mga residente ay hindi na pumasok sa trabaho para lang makapila sa mga gasolinahan. Matapos ang 54 na brutal na pamumuno at 13 taong civil war, pinatalsik ng mga rebelde si Pangulong Bashar al-Assad. Ang pagpapatalsik na ito ay sinasabing generational change para sa gitnang silangan. Nakamasid ang buong mundo sa Syria kung mapaninindigan ba ng mga bagong leader ng bansa ang pag-estabilisa sa bansa at iwasan ang marahas ng paghihiganti matapos ang 13 taong civil war sa baybayin ng sectarian at ethnic lines. Pearl Rogasyon para sa mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Nagpapagaling si dating U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi matapos sa magtamo ng injury mula sa kanyang official trip sa Luxembourg. Ayon sa tagapagsalita nitong si Ian Cower, patuloy ang ginagawang pagpapagamot ni Pelosi. Kasama ni Pelosi na siyang nagre-representa ng California sa U.S. House and bipartisan congressional delegation sa Luxembourg para sa pagdiriwang ng 80th anniversary ng Battle of the Bulge. Dagdag pa ni Cower, babalik naman sa U.S. si Pelosi kapag gumaling na ito at patuloy na nagpapagaling na sa pagamutan. Hindi naman ito binanggit kung ano ang mga injuries na kanyang natamo. Unang naging House Speaker ito mula 2007 hanggang 2011 at nakabalik sa pagiging Speaker noong taong 2019. Nagbitiw lamang ito sa posisyon noong 2023 matapos magkahiwalay na 4 na taong termino sa kanyang panunungkulan.
Inakusahan ng U.S. President-elect Donald Trump ang administrasyon ni President Joe Biden na itinatago ang ilang impormasyon sa mga namataang drones sa ilang bahagi ng New Jersey. Sinabi nito na marapat na ibigay ng U.S. government ang tunay na impormasyon ukol sa nasabing mga naglipa ng drones. Magugunit ang maraming mga airbases sa U.S. ang isinara matapos namataan ang ilang mga drones kung saan pinabagsak ng U.S. military ang ilan sa mga ito. Nananatiling naka-alerto na rin ang mga airbases ng U.S. dahil sa patuloy ang pagdami ng mga drones na nakikita sa iba't ibang panig ng Amerika.
The government knows what is happening. Look, our military knows where they took off from. If it's a garage, they can go right into that garage. They know where it came from and where it went. And for some reason, they don't want to comment. And I think they'd be better off saying what it is. Our military knows and our president knows. And for some reason, they want to keep people in suspense. I can't imagine it's the enemy, because if it was the enemy, they'd blast it out. Even if they were late, they'd blast it. Something strange is going on. For some reason, they don't want to tell the people, and they should, because the people are really, I mean, they happen to be over Bedminster. Want to know the truth? They're very close to Bedminster. I think maybe I won't spend the weekend in Bedminster. I've decided to cancel my trip.
Have you received an intelligence briefing on the drones?
I don't want to comment on that.
Samantala, nanindigan si U.S. President-elect Donald Trump sa plano nitong paggamit ng mga military para sa pag-deport ng mga migrant na iligal na nakapasok sa Estados Unidos. Sinabi nitong nakasaad kasi sa batas ng US na maaari lamang magamit ang military sa maximum level ng deportation. Nakasaad din sa batas sa US na hindi maaari magamit ang US military hanggat hindi ito aprobado ng US Congress. Magugunit ang iginiit ni Trump na kanyang palalayasin ang mga illegal na migrants pag upo muli nito sa pwesto. Posibleng mabuo ang isang weak La Nina sa susunod na 3 buwan ayon po yan sa United Nations World Meteorological Organization.
At the moment, there are projections that this is going to get worse and affect communities well into next year. But as Beth has said, if we act now and act fast, the world will have not another major crisis on its hands. We can prevent this. We know what needs to be done and we can do it now with timely action.
Ahensyang ang La Nina ay mabubuo at posibleng magiging short-lived o hindi gaano magtatagal at magiging mahina lamang umano ito. Ayon din sa UN-based weather agency, mayroong 55% na posibilidad na mag-transition ang kasalukuyang neutral condition patungo sa mahinang La Nina mula December 2024 hanggang February 2025. Ayon kay WMO Secretary General Celeste Saulo, kaakibat ito ang inaasahang paglamig ng temperatura sa mga karagatang saklaw ng Pacific Ocean at ang pagbabago ng tropical atmospheric circulation o sirkulasyon po yan ng hangin sa mga tropical countries. Malaki rin ang posibilidad nitong maaapektuhan ng rainfall volume sa mga bansang makararanas ng naturang weather phenomenon.
A full-fledged La Nina event has not formed yet. And it's likely based on the model forecast. It's likely that if there is any La Nina event that forms, it will be a weak one, or there may not be one at all. I think we may stay in neutral conditions throughout the northern hemisphere summer. So that means that there won't be this sort of break on the global temperature that comes with the La Nina event, which has a whole cooling effect on the global temperature.
Kumpiyansa ang hepe ng World Health Organization ukol sa napipintong pagtatapos ng pandemic agreement sa May 2025. Ito ay sa kabila ng pag-aalinlangan ng iba na hindi raw susuportahan ng Trump administration ng pandemic treaty. Si May Fanway Zaragoza para sa detalye.
Sa kabila ng mga pag-aalinlangan kung susuportahan ba o hindi ng Administrasyong Trump ang Pandemic Treaty, confident si United Nations Chief na matatapos ang kasunduan sa Mayo 2025.
We're ready to work together. And the relationship between WHO and the US, the United States, has been actually a good model of partnership, and has been partnering for many years, and we believe that that will be the case. And I believe, the U.S. leaders understand that, the U.S. cannot be safe unless the rest of the world is safe.
2 taon nang nakikipagnegosasyon ang 194 member states para sa isang kasunduan na magdaragdag ng kolaborasyon bago at pagkatapos ng mga pandemya. Base ito sa tinanggap ng mga kamalian noong COVID-19. Isang paunang subok upang tapusin ang kasunduan ang nabigo ngayong taon. At para sa karamihan ng kinatawan ng mga bansa, malamang ay hindi papasa ang kawangis na kasunduan sa ilalim ng Trump administration. Ngunit para kay Dr. Tedros, naniniwala siya na makakabuo rin ng treaty ukol sa pandemya ng member states. May Zaragoza para sa Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Susunod, isang major earthquake niyanig ang bansang Vanuatu.
Halaga ng Bitcoin patuloy na umaakyat.
B-girl Raygun kinasuhan ng isang comedian. Yan at iba pang mga balita sa pagbabalik ng Mata ng Agila International.
Pagod na ang ating barkada sa search for the missing painting.
Pwede bang hindi na muna ako sumama sa pag-obserba niyo mamaya?
Ako rin, Sir Lloyd.
Maigi pa. Mag-take turns na lang tayo.
Wait lang, bakit parang naging search for the one?
Christy, salamat Sinamahan mo ako mag-ikot-ikot.
Wala yun, Sir Lloyd. Mukha lang tayong nagde-date.
Habang may nabubuong tambalan, pero namang nagkakalabuan?
Hoy, Nate! Bakit mo pinaiyak yung anak ko?
Tito, hindi ko naman po siya pinaiyak.
Siyempre, sasabihin niya yun.
Alamin kung anong search ang unang matatapos sa tumitinding mga kaganapan dito lang sa Goodwill Season 5. Bago mag-Corina interviews. 5:00 ng hapon, dito lang sa Net 25.
Sa Net 25.
Mata ng Agila International sa pagpapatuloy po ng mga balita ngayong gabi. Tumama ang malakas na 7.3 na lindol sa bansang Vanuatu kung saan kumpirmadong patay ang isang tao. Ayon sa lokal na ulat, maraming mga sasakyan ang nadaganan ng mga gumuhong gusali dahil sa lakas na lindol. Batay sa ulat ng US Geological Survey, natagpuan ang lindol bandang 30 kilometers sa baybayin ng Efate bandang 12:47 ng hapon. Habang may lalim po ito na 57 kilometers. Nakaalerto na rin ang mga otoridad sa posibleng tsunami na tatama sa isla. Karaniwan na ang mga paglindol sa Vanuatu dahil nakahilera ito sa Pacific Ring of Fire kung saan laging niyayanig ng malalakas na tectonic activities.
Iniulat ng Los Angeles County Sheriff's Office na higit sa 19,000 katao ang inilikas dahil sa sumiklab na wildfire sa Malibu. Ayon sa lokal na ulat, patuloy pa rin ang fire tending operations ng mga bumbero sa lugar kung saan nasa higit 4,000 acres ng gubat ang tinupok ng apoy. Nag-deploy ang California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection o CAL FIRE ng higit sa 200 bumbero para kontrolin ang paglawak pa ng wildfire. Inihayag naman ng CAL FIRE na nasa 42% ng wildfire ang naapula na ng mga bumbero nitong linggo. Pero ngayong Lunes ay inalis na ang mandatory evacuation sa ilang lugar na apektado ng wildfire. Inaasahan din na mas mapapadali ng paglamig ng panahon ang pag-apula ng sunog sa Malibu.
Dinala sa pagamutan ang driver ng isang box truck sa Michigan matapos sumalpok sa nakaparadang truck ng bumbero. Ayon sa ulat ng Kalamazoo County Sheriff's Office, naganap ang insidente sa eastbound section Interstate 94 malapit sa 80.5-mile marker. Nadamay naman ang 2 Comstock fire vehicles at isang cruiser na nakaparada rin sa tabi ng daan. Pansamantalang isinara na ang Interstate 94 para sa clearing efforts. Pinaniniwala ang nawala ng kontrol ang driver ng truck dahil sa madulas ang kalsada, bunsod na rin na malakas na pag-ulan ng snow.
Nahirapan ang Red Cross na maghatid ng tulong sa mga residente ng Mayotte Island. Matindi kasi ang pinsalang iniwan ng bagyong Chido sa isla. Ayon pa sa mga otoridad, isa ang bagyong Chido sa mga pinakamalalakas na bagyo na tumama sa Mayotte sa loob ng halos 1 siglo. Si Ashley Sakmar para sa karagdagang detalye.
Noong Lunes, nagpadala ng tulong ang Red Cross sa isla ng Mayotte. Ang lugar na ito ay pinakamahirap na teritoryo ng France sa labas ng bansa. Sa kasalukuyan, marahil libo-libo ang kinatatakutang nasawi dahil sa napakalakas na bagyong humampas sa isla. Nilapastangan ni Bagyong Chido ang malalaking lugar ng arkipelago sa baybayin ng Silangang Africa noong weekend. May lakas ang hangin na 200 kilometers per hour na puminsala sa mga bahay sa bulubundukin, pumutol sa kuryente, komunikasyon at malinis na inuming tubig.
Concernant Mayotte, nous avons au départ préparé un premier lot de 30 tonnes de matériel. On a ici des bâches qui serviront et qui servent à recouvrir les toits des maisons. On a également des kits de reconstruction de l'habitat qui sont des outils, pelles, pioches, pointes, marteaux, etc. qui permettent de pouvoir retravailler sur l'habitat d'urgence. On envoie également des lots de kits famille, des jerrycans, des couvertures et puis des lampes solaires qui permettent également de recharger les téléphones portables. Donc ça, c'est un premier lot, des kits hygiène également pour les familles.
Ayon sa mga ulat sa paligid ng teritoryo, daan-daang dampa ang naguho at nagkalat. Makikita ang nagtumbahang mga puno ng niyog sa bubong ng mga gusali, mga bangkang tumaob, mga sasakyang natabunan ng mga bato at mga taong nagtatago sa ilalim ng mga mesa upang magtago.
On a un cyclone qui a détruit une grande partie de l'île avec une complexité logistique qui fait que l'aide à la population n'est pas évidente. Nous avons sur place heureusement 250 personnes de la Croix-Rouge, 150 salariés, 100 bénévoles. Ces personnes ont été aussi choquées par ce qui est arrivé. Certaines ont tout perdu. Notre directeur sur place, le directeur territorial de la Croix-Rouge a perdu sa maison. Donc il faut que ces personnes puissent se relever déjà sur le plan familial pour pouvoir revenir et aider les populations, relancer les activités au bénéfice des populations.
Marami sa mga kalye ay hindi pa maaaring daanan. Ayon kay French Acting Interior Minister Bruno Retailleau, gugugol ng ilang araw upang matiyak ang pinsala at bilang ng namatay dahil sa bagyo. Ashley Sakmar para sa mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Wala pa pong natutukoy na motibo ang pulisya kung bakit nagpaputok ng barilang isang bata sa isang eskwelahan sa Wisconsin, USA. Myla Simbulan po para sa detalye ng balita.
Isang estudyante at isang guro ang patay at 6 ang sugatan sa pamamaril na naganap sa isang paaralan sa Wisconsin, Estados Unidos. Natagpuan ng pulis na patay rin ang suspect sa pinangyarihan ng mass shooting. Nagbigay ng update ang hepe ng Madison Police Department na si Sean Barnes.
Here's what we know again. We have 3 people who have lost their lives. 2 of those people were persons who were pronounced dead at the scene and 1 while on the way to the hospital. Of the 6 injured and taken to local hospitals, 2 students remain in critical condition. Their injuries are life-threatening. A teacher and 3 other students were taken to area hospitals with non-life-threatening injuries. 2 of those victims, 2 of those survivors, have been released from the hospital. So that is an update.
Ayon kay Barnes, hindi pa natutunton ng mga otoridad kung ano ang motibo ng shooter.
At this time, we're still working on a motive, trying to determine why this happened. We know that there is some information that may be circulating about the shooter. I cannot, at this time, formally tell you the age or gender or name of the shooter. We do not want to compromise any part of the investigation.
Dagdag ni Barnes, nakabalik na sa kani-kanilang mga pamilya ang mga estudyante na nakaligtas sa trahedya.
Here are the latest updates. The reunification of students and their loved ones who survived this incident is complete. All student survivors have been reunified with their parents. We're still in the process of reunifying some of our staff, our teachers who selflessly stayed back to make sure our kids were okay. We're currently reunifying them with their loved ones as well.
Nangyari ang pinakahuling school shooting na ito na yumanig na naman sa US sa Abundant Life Christian School. Ito ay isang pribadong institusyon na may 400 estudyante mula kindergarten hanggang 12th grade sa kabisera ng Wisconsin, ang Madison. Ang Madison ay may 270,000 na mga residente. Ang shooter na estudyante sa paaralan ay gumamit ng handgun. Nakita itong patay ng mga pulis sa loob ng paaralan. Ayon sa pulis, nakikipagkaisa naman ang pamilya ng shooter sa investigasyon. Myla Simbulan para sa mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Ganyan na karami ang Wilcon Depot branches sa buong bansa. Ang kanilang ika-99th branch, inihandog para sa mga kababayan nating Quezonian.
3, 2, and 1! Let's catch the rhythm!
And
And it's really a milestone that we need to celebrate because this is close to 100. It's a space that provides opportunity where dreams are built, homes are improved. And again, it's a nice feeling that we're able to bring the best products and the best service that we offer to the market.
Ang pagbubukas ng Wilcon Depot sa Pagbilao, Quezon ay nagpapatunay ng kanilang pangako sa pag-asenso ng kabuhayan ng mga mamamayan.
So this is really an opportunity for us also, not only providing products and services to the province of Quezon or particularly in Pagbilao, but basically also yung nakakatulong tayo sa ekonomiya because we are providing jobs.
Todo suporta naman ang mga kababayan nating pagbilawin dahil magbibigay ang Wilcon Depot ng malawak na hanay na mga produkto mula sa mga pinagkakatiwalaang brand tulad sa construction materials, furniture at mga gamit sa ating tahanan.
We're very happy kasi at last pala nagkaroon na ng Wilcon dito sa lugar namin, and one thing more is ang Wilcon kasi is mapagkakatiwalaan, quality ang kanilang product.
Kaming taga Pagbilao hindi na pupunta lang Lucena para bumili ng mga bagay-bagay para sa aming bahay.
So para po sa aming mga Pagbilawin, very na po siya, kumbaga accessible na mamili ng mga gamit sa bahay, lalo na yung mga bago pa lang magpapagawa. Tapos kahit existing yung bahay mo, yung ibang decorations na gusto mong idagdag, so medyo malapit na siya.
Mark De La Rosa, para sa mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Patuloy pa rin ang pagtaas ng halaga ng Bitcoin kung saan ay umabot na ito sa higit $106,000 sa Asian trade. Muli na namang binigo ng Bitcoin ang forecast ng mga analysts na babagsak daw ang halaga ng Bitcoin matapos maabot nito ang $100,000 mark. Dahil dito marami na ang nagsasabing malakas ang epekto ng Trump trade sa volatile ng cryptocurrency na ito. Subalit, ibinabala rin ni Federal Reserve Chairperson Jerome Powell na may limitasyon pa rin ng Bitcoin. Anya, hindi lahat ng mga stores ay tumatanggap ng Bitcoin kung kaya't hindi raw ito magiging karibal ng dolyar. Sa ngayon, inaasahan naman ng ilang analysts na posible pang tumaas ang halaga ng Bitcoin sa higit $110,000 level.
Sa ibang balita, nagsanib puwersa ang mga guro sa Croatia upang humingi ng karagdagang sahod sa kanilang gobyerno. Narito ang mga detalye mula kay Rose Papa Angelos.
Noong Sabado, sumali na rin ang Independent Union of Secondary School Employees ng Croatia sa mga protesta para sa karagdagang sahod ng Science Union at ng Preparatory School Union sa kabiserang Zagreb. Humihingi ang mga demonstrador ng karagdagang sahod at nilalabanan ang pagpapakilala ng pagsusuri ng public services na isasama ang mga empleyado ng sektor ng edukasyon. Ayon sa presidente ng Preparatory School Union na si Zelsko Stipek, ang evaluation sa educational at scientific institutions ay wala dapat sa usapan.
Ocjenjivanje u odgojno-obrazovnim ustanovama i na znanstvenim ustanovama ne dolazi u obzir. Ovi sindikati zahtijevaju da se linearno povećaju svi koeficijenti za sva radna mjesta u obrazovanju i znanosti, a da se koeficijenti onih radnih mjesta koja sada ne postoje, a to su naši pomoćnici u nastavi, također nađu u uredbi o koeficijentima.
Tanong ng gurong si Jelena Nezavic, sino pang matitira sa mga guro sa ganitong sitwasyon?
19 godina u struci, napredovala u zvanje mentora i evo danas imam plaću kao jedna medicinska sestra početnica sa srednjom stručnom spremom, uz dužno poštovanje kolegicama i kolegama medicinarima, neka njima toliko, ali u državnim javnim službama mi smo opet nažalost na dnu, čak i nakon ove famozne reforme zakona o plaćama gdje smo se barem malo trebali popeti, ne ostati tako bez digniteta na dnu, jel?
Rose Papa Angeles from mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Umaasa Umaasa po ang Apple na mailulunsad nito ang kanilang foldable iPad sa taong 2028. Ayon sa Industrial Design Group ng Apple, kasalukuyan silang nagdidisenyo ng mga prototypes sa naturang gadget kung saan plano nilang maglabas ng isang 18.8-inch na creaseless foldable iPad. Tinukoy ng Design Group na maikukumpara ito sa dalawang iPad Pro sa side-by-side. Tinukoy naman ni Gurman na posible ring maglabas ang Apple ng foldable iPhone.
Kinasuhan ni Rachel Gunn, mas kilala bilang Beagle Ray Gunn, ang isang komedyanteng nagbalak maglabas ng parody musical tungkol sa kanyang Paris Olympic journey. Ang musical na pinangalanang Ray Gun the Musical ay ginawa ng komedyanteng si Stephanie Broadbridge bilang tribute sa Olympic journey ng viral athlete. Naudlot ang intended debut ng musical nitong Sabado sa Kinselas Theatre sa Darlinghurst, Sydney matapos magpadala ang legal team ni Ray Gun ng cease and desist letter sa naturang venue at komedyante na nagsasabing trademark umano ang dance moves ni Ray Gun at tila paglabag sa intellectual property ang tangkang pagre-reenact ni Broadbridge sa kanyang sprinkler at kangaroo hop dance moves. Sa isang pahayag ay sinabi ng legal team na sa kabila ng kanilang pagsuporta sa sining ng Australia ay nais din nilang protektahan ang katatagan at respetong kalakip ng personal brand ni Ray Gun. Sumikat si B-Girl Ray Gun dahil sa viral dance routine nito sa Paris Olympics na bigong nakakuha ng kahit isang puntos mula sa mga hurado. Nagtamo rin ito ng iba't ibang memes at napilitang magsagawa ng investigasyon laban sa Australian Olympic Board na pumili sa kanya na sumabak sa naturang paligsahan.
Samantala, bumaba ang rankings ng Philippine Women's National Football Team. Sa pinakahuling edisyon ng FIFA Women's World Rankings ay nasa pang-41 na sila ngayon. Noong nakaraang rankings ay nasa pang-39 ang World Rankings ng Pilipinas. Isa sa mga naging malaking sanhi ng nasabing pagbaba nila ng rankings ay ang magkahalong resulta ng FIFA window noong nakaraang Oktubre. Tinalo nila ang Jordan 3-0 subalit nabigo sila sa lower ranked na Kenya sa score naman na 4-1. Ang pagkatalo sa Kenya ay isang malaking kagulatan kung saan pang 39 noon ang ranking ng Pilipinas habang ang Kenya ay nasa pang 151st sa buong mundo. Dahil din dito ay umangat rin ang ranking ng Kenya na nasa pang 149th na ngayon.
Humakot ng 8 gintong medalya si Carl Eldrew Yulo sa Chiu Wai Chung Cup na ginanap sa Hong Kong. Nanguna si Yulo sa juniors individual all-around ng torneo. Hindi nagpaawat si Yulo nang makuhang 6 na gintong medalya sa individual apparatus na floor exercise, vault, parallel bars, horizontal bar, pommel horse at steel rings. Naka-gold rin si Yulo sa team event ng juniors men's artistic gymnastics. Si Carl Eldrew ang nakababatang kapatid ni Carlos Edriel Yulo na maaalalang sumungkit ng 2 gintong medalya sa 2024 Paris Olympics. Masayang ibinahagi ng singer na si Selena Gomez na engaged na ito sa kanyang boyfriend na si Benny Blanco. Sa social media account nito ay nagpost ang American actress-singer ng larawan nilang dalawa habang suot ang isang diamond ring. May caption din ito na Forever Begins Now sa nasabing post. Noong nakaraang taon ay ibunyag ng dalawa ang kanilang relasyon sa publiko. Dagdag pa ng 32-year-old na actress na hindi niya akalain na makakatagpo siya ng bagong relasyon sa katauhan ng American producer-songwriter.
Nag-champion po sa Spanish World Scrabble si Nigel Richards. Pero ang catch, hindi marunong makipag-usap si Richards gamit ang lingwang Spanish dahil hindi naman siya Espanyol, kundi siya ay taga New Zealand. Mahilig lamang umano talaga siyang maglaro ng Scrabble at para makapasok sa Spanish World Scrabble, nag-aral siya ng Spanish words noon lamang nakaraang taon. At noong taong 2015, 9 na linggong nag-aral ng French language si Richard, subalit nanalo pa rin siya bilang French language Scrabble World Champion.
Patuloy pa rin ang panda mania sa Hong Kong matapos tumaas ang bilang ng populasyon ng mga panda ng bansa sa 6. Mula rito ay maraming mga turista ang nagsisipuntahan sa Hong Kong Ocean Park para magpakuha ng mga litrato sa 6 na Earth Sign Fellow. Tinukoy naman ng mga local officials ng Hong Kong na malaki ang tulong ng mga panda sa pagpapalakas ng turismo sa bansa dahil sa popularidad ng mga ito. Anila, unti-unti nang nabubuo ang panda economy sa Hong Kong. Bihira kasi ang panda sa ibang bansa dahil endemic ang mga ito sa China. Karaniwang nagre-regalo ang China ng panda sa kanilang kasosyo na bansa bilang pagpapakita ng malaking pagtitiwala sa mga ito. Diba? Ang cute-cute talaga ng mga panda. Diba? Tapos, ang tricky lang sa mga panda, diba? Napaka-baba ng tsansa na mag-reproduce sila. Ayun pa yan, diba? So, ilan lang talaga.
Pero nga daw, the dream jobs, yung tagapag-alaga ng mga panda.
Oh, diba?
Ayun yung ano nila, ayun yung trabaho nila. It's a legitimate job,
diba?
ha?
Would you?
Well...
Parang medyo effort silang alagaan.
Well, actually, ano naman sila, ano daw ang panda, hindi naman alagain daw, supposedly. Gusto lang niya matulog, kumain, magpahinga, relax lang. Ayan, minsan manood ng TV. Pero alam mo ba,
mag-stream lang.
Alam mo, Nina, alam ba kung bakit, anong paborito ng panda ng mga pelikula, anong favorite nila?
Ay, naku. Mukhang may napaghandaan ka. Hindi ako na-inform. Sige na nga, Martes sa Umayos.
Yung mga lumang pelikula, alam mo kung bakit?
Naku, ano to?
Alam mo kung bakit?
Bakit?
Kasi they're in black and white.
Mga kapanahunan ng parang may pagka-dated yan, pero pagbibigyan kita dahil maaga pa ang linggo.
Hindi na
para,
tawa si Direk Mads, kaya extra na daw tayo.
Parang hindi approve.
Hindi approve, pero yan, approve na
pero tumatawa, Direk. Tumatalikod,
niya.
pero ramdam mo dito, gumagano.
Hindi, nag-gets na niya, bakit nag-gets na niya yung joke finally.
Ayun naman pala.
So, nako, dagdag na naman yan sa ating bucket list, Nina, na tayo magbabalita mula sa Hong Kong.
Oo, diba?
Para makita naman natin yung mga
na
panda
sila.
doon. Ayan. At tandaan, habang wala pa kami sa Hong Kong para magbalita, narito lamang kami ni Nina para maghatid ng balita sa amang dako ng mundo. Sa ngayon, dito po muna sa Manila. Muli ako po si Ricky Matay.
At ako po si Nina Richie Alago Flores. Ito pa rin ang mata ng Agila International. Tutok pa rin po kayo. At para naman sa mga balitang nangyari rin sa iba't ibang panig pa ng mundo, punta naman tayo kay Alma Angeles para sa mata ng Agila World News. Take it away, Alma.
Thank you, Nina and Ricky. Good evening, everyone. I'm Alma Angeles for Net25 World News. On tonight's headlines. Tonight, we lead with two urgent stories from across the globe. First, a powerful earthquake has devastated the South Pacific nation of Vanuatu. A magnitude 7.4 tremor struck the capital Port Vila, leaving a trail of destruction and claiming at least one life.
It's the most violent earthquake I've experienced in my 21 years living in Vanuatu and in the Pacific Islands. I've seen a lot of large earthquakes, never one like this. My wife, who was born in Vanuatu, said it was the worst that she'd experienced in her life.
And a deadly school shooting in Wisconsin just days before the holiday break. Details on the investigation and the community grappling with this devastating loss.
Madison Police Department responded to a mass shooting at the Abundant Life Christian School today. The shooter has now been identified as 15-year-old Natalie Rupnow, who went by the name Samantha. She was a student at the school, and evidence suggests she died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound.
And the news starts now. We begin with breaking news. An earthquake of magnitude 7.4 struck Vanuatu's capital, Port Vila, damaging buildings and cars, with at least one person reported killed. Local broadcaster VBTC captured these images of vehicles crushed by a building collapse in the heart of Port Vila's commercial district. Dan McGarry, who is based in Vanuatu, tells us about the impact of the quake.
It was the most violent earthquake I've experienced in my 21 years living in Vanuatu and in the Pacific Islands. I've seen a lot of large earthquakes, never one like this. My wife, who was born in Vanuatu, said it was the worst that she'd experienced in her life. The damage that we've seen in the capital is more extensive than any I've seen in previous earthquakes. I went by Vila Central Hospital shortly after the earthquake happened, maybe about 45 minutes afterwards. Spoke to police who were stationed at the gate there. They confirmed that there was one fatality. There were numerous wounded individuals visible at a triage center outside the emergency ward. I also saw a number of people that you'd qualify with minor injuries, basically. I guess you'd call them walking wounded. Vanuatu has dealt with a lot of disasters, natural disasters, over the course of its history, and Vanuatu society, people know how to respond. So there's been no panic. There's a high degree of professionalism among the emergency responders. They're very calm, they're very focused, they're working very hard, they're mobilizing resources even as we speak. Things seem to be progressing as well as they can under the circumstances. I have to stress that we have no power, very, very poor domestic telecommunications, very hard to get a call through. And I've heard reports just now of water being cut off in some parts of the town. So we don't know whether this has been cut off as a precautionary measure, which is common after a severe earthquake, or whether there's been damage to the infrastructure. It's really hard to tell just how bad things are. And I don't think we'll know until tomorrow.
Landslides have blocked key roads, including the crucial route connecting Port Vila to the international shipping terminal. The earthquake's impact has been felt widely, with reports of damage to several diplomatic missions in the capital, including the U.S., British, French, and New Zealand embassies. The U.S. Embassy in Papua New Guinea has confirmed its Port Vila office sustained considerable damage and is closed indefinitely. New Zealand's High Commission, located in the same building, has also reported significant damage. Communication lines across the country have been disrupted, affecting both local and international contact. The Australian High Commission in Vanuatu has also reported communication issues. The USGS reports the earthquake struck at a depth of 10 kilometers. The initial quake has been followed by several aftershocks, some strong enough to be felt in Port Vila. Initially, a tsunami warning was issued for Vanuatu, but thankfully the warning has since been canceled. Authorities in the U.S., Australia, and New Zealand have confirmed there is no tsunami threat to their territories. Australia's Foreign Minister Penny Wong said Australia stands in solidarity with Vanuatu.
On behalf of Australians, I want to extend our solidarity and our condolences to the people of Vanuatu. We've seen a dreadful tragedy at Port Vila. I want to say that we have reached out to my counterpart by message to offer any support that Vanuatu needs. We've also reached out through our High Commissioner. We will provide whatever assistance is required. I say to the people of Vanuatu, You are family, and Australia is here to help.
Police say a 15-year-old girl opened fire in a Wisconsin school classroom, fatally shooting a fellow student and a teacher and wounding 6 other people before killing herself with a handgun. As of late Monday, Madison Police Chief Sean Barnes said the motive for the violence remained unclear. Thomas I. Likeness for more.
Today truly is a sad day for Madison and for our country.
That's Madison Police Chief Sean F. Barnes following a shooting at this school Monday in the Midwestern U.S. state of Wisconsin. In an all-too-familiar sight, police vehicles surrounded the school. Police responded after a grade 2 student made a 911 call reporting gunfire at the Abundant Life Christian School just before 11 o'clock Monday morning. Police say the suspect is a 15-year-old female student who attended the school. She apparently shot herself before police arrived on the scene and died on the way to hospital. Police Chief Barnes says no officers fired their weapons when they responded, and Barnes says it's not clear what prompted the violence.
Many of you have asked me about the why of this. Why did this happen? What do we know? What was the motivation? I do not know. But I will tell you this, our detectives are working hard in the investigative process to find out as many answers as we can so that we can further prevent these things from happening, not only in this community, but in other communities around our country.
So far this year, there have been 322 school shootings in the United States. That's almost 1 per day. Those numbers come from the K-12 school shooting database website. And Barnes says something has to be done about gun violence in classrooms.
I think we can all agree that enough is enough. And we have to come together to do everything we can to support our students, to prevent press conferences like these from happening again and again and again.
The school where Monday's shooting took place has about 400 students in classes from kindergarten through to grade 12. Gun control and school safety have become major political and social issues in the U.S., where the number of school shootings has jumped in recent years. The epidemic of shootings has affected public and private schools alike in urban, suburban, and rural communities. Morel Jen Charles is the mother of a student who survived the tragedy. She says guns have created a never-ending cycle of danger for children.
We always send prayers. We always send thoughts. And then when are we going to stop doing that? This is not okay. If your kids are at school, they are not okay. If they are at church, they are not okay. If they are outside, elsewhere, they are not okay. Well, where are they going to be safe?
That sentiment resonates with Madison Mayor Satya Rhodes Conway. She says she's frustrated with the lack of action on the issue.
I am on record that I think we need to do better in our country and our community to prevent gun violence. And I hoped that this day would never come in Madison. And so I will ask our entire community and our entire country to do whatever we can to make sure that no public official ever has to stand in this position again.
Lawmakers appear to have little appetite for stronger gun control, despite statistics showing that firearms are the leading cause of death in children aged 1 to 17 years. And sadly, after Americans ring in the new year in just a couple of weeks, Monday's tragedy will likely be replayed many more times in 2025. Thomas I. Likeness, Net 25 World News.
In a move aimed at bolstering regional security, the Philippine Senate has ratified a landmark military agreement with Japan. And this agreement, driven by shared concerns over China's growing influence, marks a significant step in defense cooperation between the two nations. In a unanimous vote, all 19 senators present approved the Reciprocal Access Agreement, or RAA. Japanese Ambassador Kazuya Endo was present for the historic vote in Manila, and this first-of-its-kind agreement for Japan in Asia will streamline the deployment of troops and equipment between the two countries, facilitating joint military training and disaster response operations. The deal, signed by Defense and Foreign Ministers in July, now has full parliamentary approval April and will soon take effect. Both the Philippines and Japan, key U.S. allies in the region, have expressed increasing concern over China's assertiveness in the East and South China Seas, as well as rising tensions surrounding Taiwan. China claims vast portions of the South China Sea, a vital trade route for Northeast Asia. Japan has also its own territorial disputes with China in the East China Sea, and the Philippines already has visiting forces agreements with the U.S. and Australia. Japan, which hosts a large contingent of U.S. forces, has similar agreements with Australia and Britain and is currently negotiating one with France.
In the ratification of the Reciprocal Access Agreement, or the RAA, between the Philippines and Japan, is a significant step in strengthening defense cooperation between the two nations. The Philippines and Japan are expected to undertake more in-depth practical military cooperation and exercises. This partnership will help the AFP address security challenges, especially in critical areas such as the West Philippine Sea, and further solidify our preparedness and resilience in safeguarding national sovereignty. Ang gusto natin mangyari dito, sir, is tantamount to having like a VFA with Japan. So yun yung gusto natin, sir, na ma-achieve natin at the end of all of this, and over and above that, not just Japan, but other nations to also follow suit.
TikTok is making headlines again, taking a crucial step in its battle to remain available to millions of U.S. users. Take a look.
TikTok is making a last-ditch bid to avert a ban in the US. It and parent company ByteDance filed an emergency request to the Supreme Court on Monday. They're asking for an injunction to halt the ban, which is set to kick in on January 19th. That's based on a law passed by Congress in April, which says a block can only be avoided if China-based ByteDance divests the short video app. The Justice Department has said that the company poses a risk to national security, given its access to vast troves of data on TikTok's 170 million US users. An appeals court has already rejected claims that the ban violates free speech protections. In their Supreme Court filing, the pair argue that Americans should be allowed to choose to view TikTok, free from what they call government censorship. On Monday, they were given a possible glimmer of hope by Donald Trump in his first news conference as president-elect.
You know, I have a warm spot in my heart for TikTok because I won youth by 34 points. And there are those that say that TikTok had something to do with that. Now, Joe Rogan did, and some of the other people that were recommended by my son Barron, he knew names. I said, who is that? Tell me, who's that? Dad, you gotta be kidding. I can't believe you don't know. And I did those interviews, and it was actually sort of cute. Do you want to know the truth? But we did them. And that had an impact, but TikTok had an impact, and so we're taking a look at it. But
during his first term, Trump had tried to ban TikTok, but the move was blocked in the courts. He has since reversed his position and said during this year's campaign that he would try to save the app. In the Supreme Court filing, ByteDance and TikTok argue that delaying the ban will allow justices to give a ruling and give the Trump administration time to make its own assessment.
President-elect Donald Trump said today he does not like mandates for vaccines, but that he is a big believer in the polio vaccine.
Well, I'm a big believer in it, and I think everything should be looked at, but I'm a big believer in the polio vaccine, the Salk vaccine.
At a news conference at his Mar-a-Lago club in Palm Beach, Florida, Trump said all vaccines should be looked at. Asked whether schools should mandate vaccines, he said he does not like mandates. Take a look.
I don't like mandates. I'm not a big mandate person. So, you know, I was against mandates. Mostly Democrat governors did the mandates, and they did a very poor thing. It was, you know, in retrospect, they made a big mistake having to do with the education of children. You know, they lost like a year, 2 years of their lives. The mandate was a bad thing. I was against the mandate.
Trump has been vocal about his opposition to school mandates during his campaign, though his aides clarified that he was specifically referring to COVID-19 vaccine mandates. Meanwhile, Trump defended his pick for Health and Human Services Secretary Robert Kennedy Jr. as Kennedy meets with GOP senators on Capitol Hill this week to gain support for his nomination. He said, "I think he's going to be much less radical than people might assume." Senators are expected to press Kennedy on his controversial policy views, many of which clash with traditional Republican beliefs. And Kennedy has a long history of questioning vaccines and has promoted the debunked claim that vaccines cause autism. Canadian Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland quit on Monday after clashing with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau on issues including how to handle possible U.S. tariffs, dealing an unexpected blow to an already unpopular government. Freeland said she was quitting in the wake of a meeting last Friday with Trudeau, who asked her to take on a lesser post after the two had been arguing for weeks over spending. Public Safety Minister Dominic LeBlanc, a member of Trudeau's inner circle, was quickly named Finance Minister of the minority Liberal government. Take a look.
My conversation with the Prime Minister today was entirely focused on the work that we want to do to support Canadians around affordability, obviously the threat of tariffs coming from an incoming administration and what we need to do to protect the Canadian economy. And I look forward now to assuming the responsibility of being Minister of Finance, talking to my colleagues as we prepare for what will be a 2025 budget. And I have a lot of confidence in the decisions our government, our cabinet has made, but will obviously do my job as Minister of Finance over the coming months.
Canada's finance minister quit on Monday, dealing another major political blow to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's already unpopular government. Chrystia Freeland said in a stinging resignation letter that she was quitting in the wake of a meeting last Friday with Trudeau, who had asked her to take on a lesser post after the two had argued for weeks over spending. In a letter posted to social media, Freeland said the possibility of new U.S. tariffs represented a grave threat. She wrote, "That means keeping our fiscal powder dry today, so we have the reserves we may need for a tariff war. That means eschewing costly political gimmicks, which we can ill afford." Her resignation came just hours before she was due to present an economic update to Parliament. The Finance Ministry said in November Canada's budget deficit for the first 6 months of the 2024-2025 fiscal year had jumped by more than a half to $9.28 billion. Freeland also served as Deputy Prime Minister, and her resignation leaves Trudeau without a key ally in cabinet at a critical juncture. She joins a wave of cabinet ministers who have either already quit or announced they won't run in the next election. Approval ratings indicate Trudeau would lose badly to the opposition Conservatives in the next election, which must be held before the end of October 2025. Before entering politics in 2013, Freeland worked as a journalist and in senior editorial roles with several media companies, including the Financial Times, the Globe and Mail, and Reuters News, where she worked from 2010 to 2013.
As rebel forces swept through Damascus, Syria's capital fell into an eerie stillness. President Bashar al-Assad, who had been in power for more than 5 decades, disappeared. Now, just hours before his flight, Assad quietly made his way to Moscow, telling his inner circle that Russian support was on the way, keeping them unaware of his true intentions. By December 8th, rebel forces had captured key cities and Damascus was on the verge of collapse. Assad's sudden disappearance broke the remains of his crumbling regime. On November 28th, he had assured commanders that Russian military aid was coming, even as rebels advanced. But Moscow had already refused to intervene. By December 7th, Damascus was in chaos, and Assad's media advisor, Buena Shaban, found the presidential residence empty. Assad had secretly left for Moscow, escorted under Russian intelligence without detection. Assad's family, including his brother Maher, were unaware of his flight. His cousins, Iyab and Yad, fled but were ambushed. Iyab was killed and Yad wounded. The regime collapsed as soldiers abandoned their posts and Damascus fell to rebel control. Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, leading rebels, promised the birth of a nation and the restoration of dignity.
هذا النصر يا اخواني تاريخ جديد للمنطقه كم تلافينا من مخاطر ترك سوريا تركها مزرعه للاطماع الايرانيه نشر فيها الطائفيه اثار فيها الفساد.
Assad, once a symbol of unstoppable power, is now a fugitive in Russia under close surveillance. In a written statement published on Monday via the Syrian presidency's Telegram channel, Assad addressed his departure from Syria. He claimed his exit was neither planned nor happened. Posted from Moscow, where he has been granted asylum, the statement said that he left to manage combat operations from the Maimim base in Latakia on December 8. After the base came under drone attack, Russia requested his immediate evacuation to Russia. Assad wrote that at no point did he consider stepping down or seeking refuge, and he never received a proposal from any individual party. His statement came in response to what he called distortions surrounding his departure. Reuters reported that Assad kept his plans to flee secret, deceiving aides, officials, and family members. The written statement also said that Assad had been ousted after insurgent forces led by the Islamist group Hayat Tahrir al-Sham swept through Syria in a lightning offensive, bringing an end to over 50 years of his family's iron-fisted rule. President Putin made the final decision to grant Assad asylum in Russia, after the Russian Air Force helped Assad repel rebel forces back in 2015.
And the news continues here on Net 25. We'll be right back.
Dahil walang hinto ang balita.
Financial straits.
Mata ng Agila Weekend tuwing Sabado, alas 4 ng hapon. Ito ang Net 25. Matatag, matapag, matapak.
Let's net together sa Net 25. Sa Net 25.
The cryptocurrency market is on the move. A significant price surge has caught the attention of investors worldwide. And tonight, we explore the factors driving this sudden increase, including a potential shift in U.S. government strategy. Take a look.
This is a new golden age for Bitcoin. And I think when you look at what's happening in the Beltway under Trump, you're going to have a deregulatory environment, which is a huge positive. And also, this is part of a risk-on environment that we're seeing not just for tech stocks, but for Bitcoin, still in the early days of playing out. Trump's a pro-crypto, pro-Bitcoin. He's someone that's a believer in the validity of it, in what it actually represents, and I think even broader innovation. And it's something where that's very, very important in terms of what's happened in the Beltway. Without Trump, we're not seeing 100K. I think Bitcoin, as we go to the end of 2025, it would not be out of the realm to see this potentially doubling.
Bitcoin's price is soaring, but is it built on solid ground? Now, one investment strategist is asking a crucial question. How do we actually determine the true value of this digital currency?
I think as we evaluate cryptocurrency, we're cautious because we're really looking towards what are the value drivers in the future rather than just recent momentum, right? And one of the advantages when we invest in companies is we can evaluate the earnings stream, we see the fundamentals, we know what we're going to, well, we can kind of build an estimation of what we're going to get and how value is going to be created in a company or an index. If we think about a bond, we know the interest rate we're getting, we can evaluate the risks of the creditor in those cases. In this case, I think we're still working through those valuation models, those ideas, and then how does it really fit inside an overall asset allocation as a diversifier other than another alternative currency, which we're not sure is really the case just yet.
The mystery surrounding recent drone sightings in the U.S. is growing, with many citizens expressing concerns about potential security implications. The frequent appearance of these unmanned aircraft near sensitive locations, from military bases to the residences of public officials, has led to widespread speculation. Now, President-elect Donald Trump addressed these concerns, hinting that the full story may not be public.
The government knows what is happening. Look, our military knows where they took off from. If it's a garage, they can go right into that garage. They know where it came from and where it went. And for some reason, they don't want to comment. And I think they'd be better off saying what it is. Our military knows and our president knows. And for some reason, they want to keep people in suspense. I can't imagine it's the enemy, because if it was the enemy, they'd blast it out. Even if they were late, they'd blast it. Something strange is going on. For some reason, they don't want to tell the people, and they should, because the people are really, I mean, they happen to be over Bedminster.
Want to know the
truth? They're very close to Bedminster. I think maybe I won't spend the weekend in Bedminster. I've decided to cancel my trip.
Have you received an intelligence briefing on the drones?
I don't want to comment on that.
Michael O'Hanlon, a senior fellow at the Brookings Institute, points to the increasing prevalence of drone technology, both for military and civilian users.
What I would say about drones is it's fascinating that we are seeing such a proliferation of drones. The technologies of flying unmanned aircraft, of course, are decades old, but the 21st century is when they've really come into their own in many ways. First, with big attacks against Al-Qaeda leaders in parts of South Asia by the United States and other such uses. And then now in the Ukraine war, but of course, other places as well. And now we're seeing these mysterious drone sightings in the United States, usually near the coast, as I understand what's been happening, and usually near military bases or the homes of public officials, but again, a wide range of potential explanations. And we don't really know what's going on.
I won't say it's much ado about nothing, because it is clearly something. But I would say that, that the vast majority, 99% sort of majority, are the sorts of, objects you would see in the nightly sky every night. And they are perhaps being supplemented by people who are deciding that it's a great time to go play with their hobby drone, because who knows what notoriety might result.
The potential origins of these drones are varied, but are these sightings really something to be concerned about?
I don't think people should be too worried, but I think people should keep a little pressure on the government to do a little better here.
The other issue, I think, is some very, very poor advice that's being handed out by influential individuals, including the idea of either illuminating these objects with lasers, for example, which is a felony. It's a felony to interfere with the operation of an airline flight, of an aircraft in flight. And then even worse, people who actually suggest that someone should go try and shoot these objects down. While there are drones, there really are, and they vary from small, less than a quarter pound, to very large, tens of pounds. But they are used by professionals typically, or the military, also very professional, and they are not what's being referred to as aliens or other sorts of nefarious devices. I think that's really the bottom line here.
And that's it for tonight's broadcast. For everyone here on Net 25, I'm Alma Angeles. Thank you all for joining us. Have a good night.
This program